to prepare for a very, very, very difficult conversation as leader. Maybe you've been in a situation where you needed to prepare for a very hard conversation and you just were trying to get everything together and you feel like you have everything in place. But wait a moment. I want to make sure that I'm going to share with you before you go into this hard and very difficult conversation. I want to help you prepare the absolute best way if you're going to have a very, very difficult conversation. Now, this video is definitely more of an advanced video on the channel. When you are in a leadership role and you are having to prepare for a very, very hard conversation, the way you prepare for it is a bit differently than you would if it was something that may not be so big of an issue. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you a couple of examples of some hard conversations that you may have to prepare for that perhaps are a bit harder in terms of the discussion you have with someone. And then I'm going to share with you a couple of ways that you can actually prepare for those very difficult conversations. As I mentioned, there are always different types of difficult conversations, but if you have been in a leadership role for any point in time, you understand that there's some conversations that just tend to be a lot harder than others. I will share with you the mistakes that I have made so that you hopefully do not make those mistakes. Now, if you are new to me, welcome. And if you are one of my absolutely amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. I'm so glad that you're here today. This channel heavily focuses in on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely when you're in those very high stakes, high pressured situations. If you like the topic of this video, you are more than welcome to take a look at my playlist on my channel. There's a lot of live videos that are there that will help you to be able to start developing how you are communicating under pressure. When it comes to difficult conversations, as I mentioned, there's different types of difficult conversations. And I would like to know from you, what are some of the hardest conversations that you have ever had to deal with? Put them in the comments below. Let's talk about them today because hard conversations is one of the reasons why I have this channel. Many people, especially leaders, they know how to communicate, but when the conversation goes under pressure, when it gets a little bit contentious and challenging, they tend to struggle. And I don't want you to struggle like that at all. All right, I want to say hello to I want to say Eldritch Holmans. Hello, welcome, welcome. How you doing today? Good to see you today. Let me know what part of the big beautiful world you all are joining from today. And if you've had a difficult conversation before, what has been the hardest conversation that you've had as a leader? Put in the comments below. All right, Eldritch says, I'm good. Hayden 20016. Hello, Hayden. How are you doing today? One of the things that comes up a lot of times with difficult conversations, and let me know where you all are joining from today. I know some of you just joined. Let me know where you're joining from and what is the hardest conversation you've had as a leader. Put it in the comments below. Now, what happens a lot of times when you're in those situations as a leader, there are different variations of hard conversations. So I'll give you just a couple of examples. If you're talking about a performance improvement plan, maybe someone's not doing something correctly, are those difficult conversations? Yes, but we're talking about the real ones, the really hard conversations where you have to do some restructuring in your organization. Maybe you have to lay someone off. Maybe you have to terminate someone. Maybe you have to give someone some really bad information as it relates to their salary and etc. Thank you for the heart emojis. Those are the hard ones I'm talking about. Those are the really hard conversations that you want to have in the back of your mind that could come up for you. Now, when you're having very hard conversations, and thank you for the heart emojis and the smiley faces, everyone. When you are having those very, very hard conversations, let's talk about how you need to prepare for them because a lot of people on YouTube will tell you, say this, do that. And I do that myself. There's a lot of information I share with my audience. And if you like this information so far, you should absolutely subscribe to the channel because this is the place where you are going to learn how to communicate under pressure very, very confidently. Now, what happens a lot of times is that when people are in these type of situations, they do not think about how to prepare for the very difficult conversations that I mentioned. How many of you have been in a situation where you've had to give a difficult conversation to someone and you've gotten your list? You got your laundry list, right? Of all the things they're doing incorrectly, and you're just going to talk to them about that. We've talked about this a bit this week, and that is not the way you want to have a difficult conversation. So, before I go into the actual steps you need to do to prepare for some of those very, very difficult conversations, let me go to the chat and see what's going on. Okay, we have Eldritch Holman says, yeah, are you telling a story? And hello. So, Eldritch, right now I'm not telling the story. I am about to share with you a couple of strategies that can help you to be able to prepare when you're trying to plan for those very, very hard conversations. This channel is really for those exceptional leaders. And what I'm sharing right now is insights that I've learned over the past 20 years as a C-suite executive, as a director and a manager, and all those type of scenarios where I have seen mistakes that people made. I've made my own mistakes, and I want to make sure that you are not caught off guard when you end up being in a place where you are giving bad information or a hard conversation. So I want y'all to be in a good place. Eldritch says, "How are you live?" And how are you live? And oh yes, so I go live here on YouTube about 8 times a week on this channel. This channel is the only channel on YouTube that focuses in on high stakes, high pressure communication in a live setting just like this. I have over 1,000 videos on this channel. There's no other channels here on YouTube that will help you to be able to communicate in this type of format. This is the best place for you to be at. And we're just only getting warmed up in terms of the channel itself. Let's talk about how to prepare for those really, really, really hard situations. We talked about what some of them may be. Terminations, you're laying someone off, you're restructuring, there's something going on with their salary, or they're being demoted. Okay, those are a couple of variations of those really hard, very hard conversations. How do you prepare for the hard ones? What are some things that you all have done to prepare for some of those really hard conversations? Put them in the comments below. Let's talk about them. But let me give you a couple things to prepare for. When you're having those hard conversations, I want you all to think of the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is what I want you to focus on now. Now, I'm a very, very positive person, very optimistic 99% of the time. And even though I'm very positive, I want you to think of what's the worst case scenario that can happen in this very difficult conversation, because what occurs is that people are caught off guard when these specific scenarios I'm going to share with you specifically happen. Let me go to the chat really quickly before I go into those. Eldritch says, OMG, do you have TikTok? Yes, I have just started a TikTok channel. It is Addicts Like Excellence. And Eldritch says, you are so beautiful. Well, thank you, Eldritch. I appreciate that. Now, a couple scenarios I want you to prepare for these very difficult conversations include the following. Number one, what are you going to do when this person starts to cry? Think about it. How are you going to handle it if this person starts to cry? This is the reason why I'm sharing this with you, because I've been in situations where people cry. Sometimes when people cry, you don't know what to do, especially as a leader. You're just like, this person's crying. Oh my gosh. Now, what are you going to do if this person starts crying? So you need to think in your mind, how am I going to manage the situation by giving this very, very difficult information to this person? What am I going to do if they start crying? Now, one of the things that I used to do, and I know this may sound, I don't want this to sound not empathetic, but I would typically have a box of tissues at my desk positioned in a certain area where the person probably is going to sit. Because if someone starts to cry, you don't want them to be just crying, crying, and you don't want them to leave the office looking like they've been crying. I just didn't want to do that. I did want to at least provide something if someone got upset. So I would have tissues in my office specifically. I want to say hello to Jaden Jones. How you doing today? Welcome, welcome. All right. The next thing you want to prepare for is, what are you going to do when this person starts to yell at you? Now, I know you may be thinking, whoa, we really just went there. Yes, we really just did. When you're given those very, very difficult conversations, you do not know where people's emotions are going to go, which is the reason why I want you to think about it and prepare for these worst case scenarios in advance before it happens so that you are not caught off guard. Why am I saying this? Because I've been yelled at. I've had a lot of things happen to me in difficult conversations, which is why I want to make sure that you are going to present yourself as the exceptional leader that knows everything. Now, the next thing I want to share with you is that we've talked about one, Making sure what are you going to do if this person starts crying. Number two is what are you going to do if this person starts yelling? And I'm going to give you number three in a moment. Let me go to the chat really quickly. Eldred says, I have TikTok too. Okay. And Eldred says, I help them. Absolutely. So if someone is crying, you do want to help them, but we have to do it in a strategic way, especially when you're having those difficult conversations. If you have your TikTok information, you're always welcome to put it on the channel so that we can support each other. Eldrick says, it was fun talking to you. I'm going to leave. Okay, Eldrick, hope you have a fantastic day, and you're always welcome to come back to the channel whenever you have some time. We've talked about two scenarios I want you to prepare for. Now let's go into the third. Another scenario, and this is to help you plan for those very, very difficult conversations, will be to consider what are you going to do if this person starts to curse at you. Now, you may have a situation where the person cries, the person yells, and the person curses. What are you going to do if this happens? What would you do? Put it in the comments below. How would you handle these situations? Watching this video on the live or on the replay, how would you handle these situations? So that's another one. Now let's talk about another scenario. What would you do if this person started to show that they were going to be combative? Maybe you are across the desk and you see this person move forward a little bit. What are you going to do? What are you going to do in those situations? How do you navigate those complex situations when they come up? What would you do if someone tells you that they feel like you are attacking them? What would you do? What would you do in these situations? Now, I know a lot of the situations I just shared with you, you may think that these are the extremes. These never happen when you are talking to people as a leader, right? But I want to share with you that these situations really do happen when you're having a difficult conversation. People may become very offended by what you are saying. And thinking about what is the worst case scenario with a couple of things that I've mentioned to you in terms of what specifically it is that you want to do if you are either yelled at, someone cries at you, someone curses at you, someone starts to become a bit more combative at you, or they start to do things physically, or they lean forward towards you. All of those scenarios, you need to have some type of plan in mind. Now, if you are in a leadership role, you're a woman in leadership, or perhaps you are an executive, this is exactly what I do. If you have struggled with this and you're not sure, well, how can I really navigate this? I encourage you to contact me at exciteexcellence.org. I will be able to provide you with some support to help you navigate these hard situations because when they come up, it could happen like that. And you have no idea what to do. And that could be a very critical moment, not only for you as a leader, but also with you as a person. You just never know how things are going to go sometimes. All right, let me go to the chat really quickly. We have Gamer Sleeman, I want to say hello. And Gamer says, hi, I'm from Indonesia. Well, welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing well today. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you all are joining from today. And I want to know from you, what's the hardest conversation you have ever had as leader? Put in the comments below. Let me know what it is. That's what we're talking about today is hard conversations. I've shared with you a couple ways to prepare for hard conversations. And the key to this is think about those worst case scenarios. Now, I have listed several worst case scenarios that could potentially happen to you when you are given those very, very difficult conversations. Now, there's a couple things that I have done personally once I learned from the mistakes that I made in a scenario. And I've talked about this on the channel before when I had a very contentious conversation happen to me. What I have done or what I do now, and I know this is going to sound a bit extra, way too much, but I'm telling you, this is how you prepare for those very, very difficult conversations. When I'm having a difficult conversation with someone, after my first mistake. So, as I mentioned to you all, I made a big mistake with a very difficult conversation where I felt very threatened in terms of my life. And I just was really, really concerned about what was going to happen. What I do moving forward, and you're welcome to use this or not use this, I'm just sharing with you what I learned from my mistake. There's certain times of a day I do not have difficult conversations. If you look at any of my live videos where we talk about difficult conversations, not for this week because we've been talking about specific aspects of difficult conversations, but you'll see in many of my other videos, I do not like having difficult conversations at the end of the day. I do think that it's really the worst time to have a difficult conversation with someone. Why? Because typically at the end of the day, the person is tired, they may be just ready to go, and you may be, thank you for the heart emojis, you may be giving them just some really hard information at the end of a really long day. You may not even know what kind of day they have, but you are just giving this information. At the end of the day, this person is just ready to go. And it's just so unfortunate because there's better ways to have difficult conversations. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. There's better ways to have difficult conversations. You don't have to do it at the end of the day. Let me tell you why people do it at the end of the day. The majority of the time, why managers, leaders, directors, executive, entrepreneurs, business owners, everybody likes to have meetings at the end of the day is because of two things. One, they're just really busy during the day and they just don't have time to break away and have that hard conversation. Two, they may just be a little bit afraid. They may be just a little bit afraid of having that hard conversation and they want to off, push it off to the end of the day. Because I don't want to deal with that until the end of the day, until I have mustered up my strength to have this conversation. Now, I'm sharing with you secrets. These are reasons why people sometimes do not have hard conversations until the end of the day. Thank you for the heart emojis. I don't want you all to be in that situation. I want you to be comfortable and confident regardless of when this situation happens. I don't like to have difficult conversations at the end of the day. I do like to actually have a conversation. I've mentioned this a couple times this week. I have a specific framework that I use to have a difficult conversation with someone. A lot of times leaders get things confused or do not quite understand the actual word difficult conversation. When you put them together, it says difficult and conversation. But the key word that a lot of times leaders forget is the conversation because it should be a discussion. It shouldn't be a one-sided conversation where I'm just telling you what you are doing wrong and you don't have anything to say. That's not a difficult conversation. It should truly be a discussion. It should be a co-discovery of these are the things that you might be struggling with. This is what's going on. How can we work together to resolve it? Now, what will happen sometimes is when you're given some of those harder conversations, as I mentioned, terminations, layoffs, restructuring, some problems with salary, and etc. It is more of a one-sided situation. So when you have those circumstances come up, you have to be the person that is able to bring some type of resources to this individual. Now, most of the time, when you are giving that type of bad news, I would say, or really challenging information, then you want to make sure you are in alignment with your human resources department because you want to make sure that you are able to provide this person with support if they need it. Even if you're doing a termination on someone, which terminations they are very challenging, they're hard. No one wants to really do them. But if you do have to do a termination, remember that this person, even though it may not have worked out, the world, believe it or not, even though we have someone from Indonesia right now, the world is an incredibly small place. Incredibly small. And you would be surprised who knows this person, who knows that person, especially when you're in specific industries. Word gets around quite a bit. And even if you are terminating someone, remember that this person did work for you. They did work for you, even though it didn't work out the way you'd like for it to work out. They did work for you. You did have some type of good relationship at some point in time. Just things did not go the way you want them to go. And maybe it's just not the right place for them. That's completely fine. But still have that level of empathy to say, I know we're gonna have to terminate your employment, but there are a couple of resources I want to share with you a, B, and C, because those conversations tend to be a bit more one-sided because the person usually is in shock unless they're have are watching this YouTube channel and subscribe to my channel, then they're probably pretty sharp and they probably already planned out their exit a long time ago. But that's why you subscribe to the channel. But as I mentioned, when you're doing terminations or you're doing some of those harder conversations, provide resources. I've been in situations where I've had to do terminations, countless. I can't tell you how many terminations I've done. Layoffs, I've done a lot of those, unfortunately. And I always try to have some kind of resources. Now, have I done that 100% of the times? No, I have not. This is the reason why I'm sharing this with you now so that you don't make the mistakes that I have made in the past. I want you all to just be on top of it at all times and be that person that can communicate in those very challenging situations in a way that not only shows your executive presence, but it also shows you as someone that has empathy and has grace and understanding for people going through hard situations. Unless you've ever been terminated in a role or position, sometimes you may not understand what people end up dealing with. And a lot of times as leaders, this is the reason why they they have a hard time or sometimes they struggle with empathy because maybe they have been somewhat sheltered in most of their positions. They've just migrated their way up the corporate ladder or in their businesses, etc. And they do not understand what people deal with when they have to be laid off or terminated or something happens to their salary and there's some restructuring and etc. Just being empathetic is really important. I hope this gives you something to consider as you are planning for that next very difficult conversation. Another thing that I want to share with you that I do, now I mentioned to you, I don't do conversations at the end of the day. I don't like doing that. And then I want to make sure that I follow my structure, being very complimentary in the conversation, make it a conversation, ask the person how you doing, how things going, etc. Even if you're doing a termination, you can still say, "Hey, how are you? I know it's been a long week. These are a couple things that's going on. These are the resources I have. I really appreciate and enjoyed working with you, and I'm wishing you all the best. If you want to be serve as a reference for this person, then you're and you feel comfortable doing that, that's a great opportunity to do that as well. All of this will help you to prepare for those hard conversations. Now, there are some conversations that are going to be extremely harder than others where you feel as if you might be in a bad situation. Now, let me know in the comments below what's the hardest conversation you have ever been in? What is it? And put it in the comments below so we can talk about it. Another thing that I do, and this will be the last part I share, I like to plan ahead for these conversations at a level that most people don't even think about. Please bear with me, and I hope I don't scare you when I say this. I like to let certain people know I'm having a hard conversation, or I may not tell them I'm having specifically what the conversation is about because sometimes that information is not important to them. They don't need to know that. But I will let key individual know that I'm going to be having a conversation with this person. Please do not go too far away. Because I've been in situations where I've had hard conversations or very, very difficult conversations where I've done them at the end of the day. I didn't let people know I was having it. And it ended up turning out to be one of the more memorable experiences, I would say, as it relates to having a difficult conversation. So I let somebody know. Somebody needs to know I'm having a hard conversation. Whether it's someone in your human resources department, it could be somebody that is on your team, that is perhaps another manager or someone you trust, to just let them know I'm going to be having a conversation with this person. Can you please be not too far away from the door in case something goes in a wrong direction or etc. All of that. I also like to know where my exits are. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not trying to scare you all. Okay. I'm not trying to scare my audience, but these are situations that can really happen in any setting, especially in today's day and age. It's really important for you to know where your exits are because sometimes if you find yourself in a situation where someone may be becoming a bit more combative or argumentative and you start to see them doing things with their body language that's conveying disgust and true frustration, you have to be really mindful of that. This is the reason why on this channel I focus so heavily on reading people. This is not something I'm sharing with you as a nice to have, sounds good if you can do it. This is a mandatory requirement if you're trying to navigate and communicate in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. It is so important for you to pick up on people's nonverbal cues. Sometimes your life will depend on it, and it's so incredibly important for you to do that. But if you are noticing someone is acting a bit combative or they may be expressing themselves or showing signs of extreme frustration, you have to know where your exits are. And if you have to end a conversation abruptly because you feel a bit threatened or you're concerned, then if you're across the desk from someone, you need to get up and you need to open the door and say, okay, I appreciate you being here, or however you want to end the conversation. We're finished with the conversation now. I wish you all the best. And get them out of your office. If something happens, and let's say you can't do all that, and the person tries to do something a bit more aggressive towards you, you need to get out of the room. You need to get out of the room. You need to get out of the building. You need to get out as best you can, because ultimately you don't want to be in a situation where perhaps something happens. There's some type of altercation that occurs, some type of assault that occurs, someone is hurt, someone is injured, and then now you're in the middle of something that's even more complicated than what you wanted it to be, because you were just having a very difficult conversation, and now it has escalated to something that requires different legal authorities to be involved in it. You do not want that. You do not want that. And this is the reason why I say you need to know where your exits are. If you want me to go into detail, I'll be happy to share with you why. But ultimately, this is something you just need to know how to get out. If the conversation does not go in that direction you'd like for it to go, you need to know how to get out of the actual setting or in the environment that you're in. So knowing where your exits are is very, very important. I cannot tell you how many times I hear leaders tell me, whether they're my clients or people I just interact with, when I'm talking to business owners and other C-suite executives and directors and public officials, where they've been in situations where they were having a hard conversation, but they didn't think about the conversation going in the wrong direction. And that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that you all, as my audience, are very much aware of how you need to prepare for the very difficult conversations, not the ones that are easier to manage, but the really difficult ones. I just want to make sure that you're in a good place and there's nothing that you have to worry about. Now, I've shared with you how to prepare for a very difficult conversation. We have talked about a couple of things, and I appreciate you all so much for watching the video. We've talked about what are some of those qualifying conversations in terms of very difficult conversations? What are those? I've shared with you different scenarios that you want to think through and say, if this happens, what would I do? If that happens, what would I do? And then I've given you some personal reflection in terms of mistakes that I've made and specific things that I do when I know I'm having a very, very difficult conversation with someone. Now, if you like this information, you are always welcome to take a look at my live tab here on my YouTube channel. I have over 1,000 videos. Yes, over 1,000 videos on this channel that are devoted to high stakes, high pressure communication. Many of you know, and if you do not know, I have a mission here. My mission is to build the largest high stakes, high pressure content library for leaders on planet Earth here. And having over 1,000 videos on this channel right now, we're definitely working towards that for sure. It's just a matter of time before the rest of the world is able to see it. But I want to make sure that you're in a solid place. I don't want you to be the average leader that can communicate, that can speak in public sometimes, that can have hard conversations. I don't want you to be average. And if you clicked on this video, you are definitely not average. I want you to be the person that is exceptional, the person that stands out from everybody else in terms of how you communicate, how you interact with people, because I know you're very unique and you have some big calling to do on this earth. And I just want to be a part of your journey to help support you so that when you are trying to do those amazing things, you're able to communicate in a very, very concise and articulate way, even when you are in the hot seat and the entire room is watching you. I want to make sure you're comfortable. If you found some value here, feel free to share this content with a friend. You're always welcome to subscribe to the channel. If you are one of my amazing subscribers, I just want to let you know I appreciate you all so much. We are at over 900 subscribers. I'm very close to the very first major YouTube milestone of having 1,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to you all. I appreciate you so much for being so engaged and interacting with the channel. You bring so much value here, and you're helping to build this very high stakes, high pressure content library by not only my experiences, but sharing your experiences as well. If there's something that comes up for you as you're watching this video, feel free to put it in the comments below, because a lot of people do look at the videos during the replay. So feel free to just let's support each other. Let's help each other understand what are some things we should do, some things we shouldn't do when it comes to communicating more under pressure. Now, tomorrow is the observed holiday here in the United States. It is the 4th of July. We're celebrating 250 years of our country, and I will not be live tomorrow night, but I will be back next Monday, back live again. I hope you all have an absolutely safe time if you're here based out of the United States. If you're in the other parts of the world, I hope you have an absolutely amazing weekend. I will not be live tomorrow, but I will be live back again on Monday. If you have any questions for Q&A, you're always welcome to put them in the comment section on any of the videos. I will respond to your messages, and depending on the amount of depth I need to go into on your comment, I may do a video and give you a shout out in the video, but feel free to bring me anything that's hard, anything that's complicated that you're struggling with. I'm here to help you any way that I can. I specialize in the hard conversations and the hard things. So feel free to learn as much as you can and get that support you need. I know how hard it is sometimes when you are in your leadership silos and we just don't know what to do or how to say it or when to say it, or maybe we freeze when we speak, and maybe we struggle with being able to respond back to people in a way that helps to protect us but not to let people know to not take advantage of us. That's what I'm here for, to support you with. Let me know what questions you have, and I will see you all in the next video.